we want to be perceived as, advocates for consumers. And so we are letting you know what the best medical research is, notes of in nuance. I think that people who read Well Informed will be really appreciative that it's these takes are not one size fits all. It's not superficial.
If you are a living, breathing human being, this episode is for you, a new and exciting consumer health product that's coming up on this episode.
From the worldwide leader in journalism, truth, and democracy, this is the Poynter Report Podcast, a joint production between the Poynter Institute and the Department of Journalism and Digital Communication at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. Now here's your host from the Poynter Institute, Tom Jones.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. Today's episode is one that can impact every single person who's watching and listening to this podcast. I think most of you are familiar with PolitiFact. That's our Pulitzer Prize-winning fact-checking website that rates the accuracy of claims by elected officials and others on its Truth-O-Meter. Well, now PolitiFact is launching a new vertical today. It's called Well Informed, and it will focus on health topics and health industry, which, as I said, impacts each and every one of us. And to help me talk about this new project, two people who are helping to run it, Well Informed. They're two of my favorite people, longtime colleagues of mine. All three of us worked together for many years back at the Tampa Bay Times. We have Katie Sanders, who is PolitiFact's editor-in-chief, and we have Rebecca Catalanello, who is assistant managing editor of PolitiFact and the editor of Well Informed. Guys, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey.
It's a really cool vertical, a much needed one. And Rebecca, let me start with you. I kind of want to work backwards on this. I think one of the issues that I think we all have is, where do we go for reliable health news? And I think this has always been the case. I think it became really prominent during COVID when we were looking for any information that we could about what was true, what was not true. Right now, do you have any sense of like where people go to get the latest in health news, or when it comes to various breaking health news stories?
Absolutely. So at PolitiFact, we have been covering health for a long time, and specifically in misinformation spaces. And what we found is that increasingly these platforms, or social media platforms, were being filled with health and wellness claims. And people in our own lives, people in our families, were coming to us and asking us to fact check things that they were seeing in their social media feeds. And it turns out that this aligns with research that shows that about a third of Americans are getting health and wellness information from their social media feeds now. At the same time, people are sort of walking away from political coverage. Sort of not paying attention to political news, but really seeking out wellness and health information in social media spaces.
So, Katie, like I said, everyone knows PolitiFact and what you guys do. And it seems like you have a handful these days, fact-checking politicians doing what PolitiFact does. You have midterms coming up. So you have a lot going on. So tell me about the decision of PolitiFact to get into this vertical of covering health.
Well, it was, we just simply took a look around at the environment in 2025. There were plenty of misinformation streams. There were new influencers who are playing big roles in people's everyday lives. And then we had a federal government that's also echoing a lot of the online discourse and actually considering it for policy enactment. And we know that our readers are interested in politics, but we knew that there's a whole bunch of readers out there who aren't so interested in politics, but need that and are seeking that information to inform their daily lives and the decisions they make for themselves and their families. So we decided to carve off a small piece of our staff, 3 people, including Rebecca, 2 reporters, to go about health coverage in a new way. That brings all of the PolitiFact expertise in detecting online trends, in talking to experts and consulting medical research, distilling it all down in a way that's really easy to access. The biggest difference is our fact checks have Truth-O-Meter ratings, and these are intended to be a little bit more for people who aren't so interested in the market of accountability, political accountability journalism They are just simply asking for like, what is the deal with protein? What is the deal with GLP-1s? What is the deal with any number of topics that Well Informed has covered for the past year or so?
So what, give me, I don't know if you don't have to give necessarily specific examples, though that would be great too. Like what kinds of stories will Well Informed do? Like where the idea, like where the idea is coming from, and what kind of stories would you do?
So we've been engaged in this work for a while, just seeing how it would go. The topics that we've tackled range from vitamins to, does hot water really help in digestion? Will vibration plates make me lose weight and build muscle? Is it safe to give vitamin K to my baby? What about Tylenol? Should protein really be a part of everything I eat? Things like that, things that are, I think, topics that are being introduced to people in their social media feeds by influencers, some of them selling products, but also have like permeated just like our general ideas of health and wellness. We're hearing questions from family members. We're confronting them in our own lives. For example, HRT, when the federal government reduced regulation of HRTs, we decided like how do we help people ask the right questions when they go to their doctors for that.
Is that, Katie, is that similar to what you guys do with PolitiFact? You find something that seems to be trending at the moment. Are there similarities between how PolitiFact goes about putting its work together and what Well Informed will do?
I think so. I think PolitiFact is a little narrow. We attack, no, attack is a bad word. We pursue reporting along very specific and narrow claims. So, a health official might say a vaccine does this. We will examine whether the vaccine does that and all the research and expertise that helps us arrive to a conclusion of, true to pants on fire, right? So the difference with Well Informed is it's not approaching a topic so narrowly. It's a little more open-ended, but we're using those same detective skills. And the reporters who are on this project have years of dissecting health and wellness claims through the PolitiFact lens. And so now they're bringing it into a way that's a little more like open-ended, inviting the curious reader in without saying like, this specific claim is wrong.
Right.
The story is going to address that, but we kind of want to reach people who might have their mind close to being made up about a vaccine safety or about buying a peptide online. We want to be that thing they read before they do that, or that thing that reminds them, maybe I should talk to my doctor about this.
Right. So Rebecca, your target audience would be anybody.
I mean, really, it's kind of like anyone who comes across, conflicting advice and information about everyday health matters. And that is pretty much everyone, should I give my child Tylenol for fever? Is gel nail polish going to get me cancer? So we're targeting social consumers, family leaders, young people. These are some of the folks we have in mind. But there's another group of people that we're hoping to share this product with too.
Which is?
Katie can talk about.
And who's that, Katie?
That was such a good layup. Oh my gosh. Let me slam it. No, I mean, I think we see this as a potential for reaching professionals in the health space. We think that this product, where it's just so distilled into what normal people, patients, and health consumers are wondering about, the type of questions that providers might see, we're hoping we can monetize this and basically package it up and sell it to people who are working for insurance companies or in the health administration space, who are doctors themselves, who or have a hard time keeping up with medical journals that probably stack in their inbox or, to the right of their computer every month. We want this to be sort of a flash briefing of like, this is what people are talking about. And this is the informed points you need to know.
Rebecca, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, as an example, when we were first envisioning this product, I talked with a someone who's an OBGYN sort of early on in the development of Well Informed. And she was like, more and more patients are refusing vitamin K shots for their babies. And I don't know how to, like, nothing I say is helping. How can I communicate with them about this? And she said, we really should tackle that topic. This is, a shot that's been recommended for babies since the 1960s. And indeed, again, like data shows parents are increasingly refusing the shot. And so instead of covering that story of people refusing the shot, like, how do we know that it's safe? What are some of the myths that doctors are encountering? And so that's an example of like giving a sort of a story, a guide that we wrote that could be useful for pediatricians coming in contact. Like, don't take it from me. Maybe you could take this article home and talk to your family about it before you make this decision.
Right. Rebecca, when I just heard about this a few weeks ago around the offices of Pointer. I was talking to Katie, and the first thing that popped into my head was, okay, we're talking about health matters. We're talking about PolitiFact. And I immediately, like, my brain went to Robert Kennedy Jr., who's Secretary of Health and Human Services. He's got his Make America Healthy Again platform, has some, needless to say, interesting ideas. But then how do you see Well Informed covering the administration closely, or is that just a small part of what you think you guys are going to end up doing?
Our approach is, as far as covering claims specifically from RFK Jr., I think PolitiFact's going to continue to do its health accountability coverage in terms of covering, putting a rating on a specific claim or talking point from the administration. What Well Informed is trying to do is to take this somewhat confusing moment where the administration has adopted some points of view that are at odds with the science and answer questions for families, parents about, what the science shows in that moment. So we're sort of like presenting this in a way for curious people who might be tuned out of politics, who don't really care what RFK Jr. said, just want to know the truth, or they're hyper tuned in and they don't really want to, they're less interested in the political talking point and more interested in, like what is true.
Right.
And so we're just sort of, so I think it's two different approaches. And we're really trying to write it in a way that families can use it rather than using it as a moment for health, political accountability.
Right. And just
I think of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just tack on?
Please.
When we were talking about starting this project with Pointer President Neil Brown, he said, he made the distinction like so simple. And it was, we're not writing for the office or the agency, we're writing for the patient. And so like, we're going to tackle priorities of the administration, but it's going to be, we're also acknowledging that like these ideas are sort of in the ether. They're in the social ether, and this is a point of conversation. And, we talk a lot about readers, but I think just as important of an audience for this and the young audience is like, this is being packaged for social.
Right.
And so like we acknowledge that people who are seeing misinformation on their phone, on, apps on their phone, they probably want to see accurate information in those spaces too. So we're prioritizing our partner network. We're talking about a newsletter. We love text, but just as important for this project is video and social media slides and graphics. And it's been a great exercise in just changing it up.
And Katie, just to follow up what Rebecca said, PolitiFact will still cover health issues. Like if somebody makes a claim that you feel is important enough to fact check, you guys will still do that work on PolitiFact, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a really memorable day last September where RFK had a press conference about Tylenol. Don't take it. It's not safe. If you're pregnant, don't take it at all. He made a specific claim that we rated false that day, but that was the appropriate, he's the president. It was appropriate to cover that kind of claim with a very direct PolitiFact fact check, right? But there are some other things where there are policies kind of emerging from HHS that are not quite as politically front and center, but still of really high interest and importance. So I think that's opportunity for well-informed all day.
Right, right. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, what will a well-informed story look like from start to finish? We'll talk about that. Quick reminder, if you like this conversation and conversations about the media, please give us an excellent rating if you're watching on YouTube. If you're traveling or working out, going on a walk, you can listen to us on Apple, Google, Spotify. We appreciate you listening, and don't forget that excellent rating. Back in a moment.
Take your career to the next level. The University of South Florida, St. Petersburg is offering a master's degree in digital journalism and design. Do the entire program from home and complete it in as little as 1 year. For more information, email journalism@usf.edu or call 727-873-4544. The cost is reasonable. The experience is invaluable.
Rebecca, let me ask you about this. Take me through how like a story might be covered. Let's take a topic that's really big right now, which is like, well, just as an example, GLP-1s. Those are the medications for those who aren't familiar. I think most people are. They're used to treat type 2 diabetes. And of course, we've learned that they're really good at, really effective at weight control and weight management, weight loss. Ozempic's probably the most famous of those. So let's say Well-Informed wants to do a story on the long-term effects of Ozempic or any of the GLP-1s. Like, take us through how a story might look, if you can.
Well, we actually did do a story recently on GLP-1s. After grappling with a lot of questions, it's just constant. There's constant coverage of this. So what could we do that would be a little more consumer focused? Aside from the splash, the interest, what does it really mean for my everyday life? What does it look like if I decide to go on it? What does it look like while I'm on it? And what changes if I decide to go off? And that was how we decided to tackle it. One of my close friends told me that she hadn't seen any story that specifically addressed those questions. And so she did a lot of research on her own looking for that. And I was like, we really should do that because I think it's permeated the conscience so widely. Everybody, especially women in menopause, are being targeted. Everybody's being targeted with these ads about how it could improve their lives from influencers, from, news stories. And we just kind of wanted a cut and dry look at what can you expect if you get on it. And so that's how we tackled it. And the reporter who did that story did a really nice job of it. And that was sort of the angle that we took on it.
Katie, I can already hear the skeptics because I was a longtime sports columnist and I'd write about, say, the Tampa Bay Bucks quarterback, and I'd get emails from people saying, well, you never played quarterback in the NFL. How do you know what it's like? And I said, well, I've never been a chef, but I can tell you whether I've had a good meal at a restaurant or not. But I'm sure people are going to come to you and say, wait a minute, you guys are journalists. You don't have medical degrees. You don't have a medical background. So Katie, what do you tell people? Like, yeah, you're right. I don't have a medical background, but why should we listen to what you guys have to say about this stuff?
Yeah, we may put on lab coats for theatrical reasons in our vertical videos, but we actually don't pretend to be doctors. We really follow the track record of PolitiFact in this regard. You don't have to trust us, but we will be forthright about everything that we learned on the step of as we reported that story. We list all of our sources at the end of the article. You can see who we spoke with, what their affiliations are, and we don't stop at one person. We are trying to not just like get one person to comment just to comment, but to track down the person who wrote the study, and often a person who's criticized that study, or we're trying to reflect a consensus here. So the reporting is really intensive, and people can come to their own conclusions, but we want to be perceived as, advocates for consumers. And so we are letting you know what the best medical research is, notes of and nuance. I think that people who read Well-Informed will be really appreciative that it's these takes are not one size fits all. It's not superficial. These pieces are meaty, and they allow for, what works for some may not work for others. And we get that perspective from doing a whole lot of reading and research and talking to a lot of people who are those people with medical specialties.
Kate,
I want to also say the two reporters who are assigned to this, Grace Abels and Madison Chopek, are incredibly meticulous. And although they make their stories try to sing and be super conversational, you can be guaranteed that behind every question, there were 80,000 other questions. I mean, they look down every rabbit hole. They are open to every nuance. This is not politicized of reporting. This is very much like, how can we get clarity on this?
Katie, we're recording this a few days, about a week before the day that it launches, which is today, when people are listening to this. So where can people find this? Where's your work going to be? As you mentioned, it's not going to just be text. There'll be social media and everything involved. So if I'm interested in Well Informed, where am I going?
We are wherever the people are. Well Informed Facts is our handle on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube, Pinterest, Blue Sky, Facebook. I think that's a pretty good mix of where you can find us. We are trying to be in the spaces where a lot of these narratives proliferate. And you can also find our articles really in a few places. You can find them on PolitiFact. We have a tag called Well Informed. So politifact.com/well-informed. But we are sharing this content with our PolitiFact partner network of like more than a dozen partners already, including places like PBS and other places that repackage it for TV, the Tampa Bay Times. Other partners are interested in this work because it doesn't feel partisan. It's very evergreen. So I think that's a pretty good roster of where you can find it.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, Katie, I got to ask about PolitiFact. You continues to go strong, and it's not important as it's ever been. I mentioned earlier, you're quite busy these days. We got the midterms coming up. What are you guys looking for at PolitiFact over the next couple of months as we head into November and a really important election cycle? Like, what are some of the early things you're starting to focus on?
Well, we're coming off a bombshell in the Maine Senate race. That will be in 2 weeks' time. I don't know where we're going to stand. All right. But we are covering 6 to 8 races very intensively. That could determine who runs the Senate and maybe who runs Congress after the 2026 election. So we're drilling deep on states like Florida, where we're based, Maine, Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. This is just designed to make me mess up. We're doing some coverage of Georgia and Texas. I wish we could cover every competitive race, but we're really paying the closest attention to those pivotal races. There's Senate races and some governor's races. So I think political junkies would really like to see. We just posted some debate recaps out of Michigan and Massachusetts just yesterday. So like you said, Tom, we are quite busy and excited about the political work that we are known for.
Well, we're excited about the political work that you do. Maybe we'll have you back on before the midterms again when we come back in the fall. And good luck with Well Informed. It sounds like a really cool project. I'm glad you guys were able to come on and talk about it. Katie Sanders, Rebecca Catalanello, thank you so much. Well Informed launched today, so be sure to check it out. And thank all of you for watching and listening. This wraps up our summer season, but you can go back and catch past episodes on YouTube as well as Apple, Spotify, Google. Check out past episodes with guests such as Jen Psaki and Chuck Todd and Tom Yamas, many, many more. We'll return in September, mid to late September, for our fall season. Check out my newsletter, The Pointer Report. I'll give you the updates on when the podcast will return, but it will be in September. I'm Tom Jones. Looking forward to seeing you then. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for listening to the Pointer Report podcast. The views and opinions of this episode's guest and the host are not associated with nor reflect those of the University of South Florida. The podcast is produced by the Department of Journalism and Digital Communication at the University of South Florida, St. Petersburg. Executive producers are Elliot Weiser and Ren LaForm. Our producers are Tom Jones and Stephanie Broughton, and our director is Christopher Campbell. And a special thank you to Neil Brown and Dr. Mark Walters.